Are you going to use the intro from the last podcast, or do you want me to do a new one? Hello everyone, and welcome to the Pixel Field podcast, where we talk about tech, innovation and design. I am one of your two hosts, Dominic, and...
I'm Philip, CEO of Pixel Field.
Cool. So Philip, what are we going to talk about today?
We have several topics there, and the first one I wanted to talk about is the new city that Google is going to be building, maybe in Toronto.
Yeah, Sidewalk.
I've read a very interesting article about that some time ago, and I wonder what you think about that, because on one hand there is like a lot of really nice stuff and a lot of really beneficial parameters of the project.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm really skeptical about this because I have this thing, like, I respect Google as a tech company so much, and I respect everything they're doing, and generally because I'm such a tech enthusiast, and I really love the idea of. This is really weird, but I'm really looking forward to the body enhancement and that kind of stuff. Like, let's say things like Blade Runner and Cyberpunk 2077, or the new game from
I've never seen Blade Runner, by the way.
Yeah. That's such a shame. The idea of really smart tech-driven city is really close to me and really good. At the same time, as a kind of conscious person with privacy and data and everything that's happening in the data space, I'm a bit scared. I haven't exactly seen all details of the project. I just saw a couple of main ideas of what they are trying to do and everything. And I think it's really cool. And I generally don't mind trading my privacy for a bit of convenience. And I live in London, right? And as you probably know, there are many CCTV cameras all around London. So everywhere I go, almost everywhere, I'm always recorded by cameras. But at the same time, to have all my surroundings, to constantly analyze me and my movements and everything I'm doing in such a way as this project seems to be proposing. I don't really know.
Yeah, about the cameras and about the privacy, I guess that's my biggest concern as well with this project, because to me it's too creepy.
Yeah.
But I've read a very interesting article this week. I think it was in Financial Times, and the title was something like if the privacy is dead, or if our privacy is really over with this kind of technology.
Yeah.
Because they're writing about a startup whose business model is basically you install a camera in your car or anywhere else, and it detects any kind of misbehavior, and if your recording results in someone being fined, then you get some percentage of this, a small share of the ticket being paid. So.
Yeah.
I think with this kind of things going on, and that's very creepy, right? But 10 years ago, you would never imagine allowing anyone listening to you in your, I don't know, living room, for example. And now you're willing to pay for it, and you really don't mind that anyone is listening. So I think that with the technology progressing, this has really shifted, and the line that we think something is very creepy right now, in 5 years, it can be something that's completely normal.
Yeah, it's true. I guess the idea of that you will get used to it is super important, and it's true. I've been just thinking about one discussion I read on Twitter some time ago. I think Peter Levelush, the entrepreneur from Netherlands, now living in South Korea, the builder of Nomad List, he was reacting to someone or mentioning that in China, they have these gates in the airport where it's a different level of security check, where it's not like in London or Prague. If you go to the airport and you have to go through the security, you either go to the kiosk with a real police officer, or you can scan your passport in this like a scanner and wait a couple of seconds and the gate opens for you if it recognizes you. They went like one step ahead where you just walk through the airport and the cameras automatically recognize your face and they compare it with their database, which they use basically the data from airlines and some other sources of data, and then they will let you go through the gate without any, like you don't have to even have your passport with you because the gate knows it's you and compares in database that it's really you, so they know if you should be permitted to go to the country or not. Which is super convenient on one side, and I think when I saw it on Twitter, someone was actually saying like, "Oh wow, this was like such a cool experience." At the same time, it like raises many concerns that basically the airport has your data and uses it in this way. And I think someone on Twitter like was arguing that the airports today, they have all this data anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like they are digging deeper than they are currently. It's just like a new way of how to use that data. But at the same time, if we like see it in action like that, I think it makes us think a bit more and we get a bit more scared. But at the same time, millions of people go through that airport and no one really cares that much, I guess, because there has not been like a big backlash or anything. So people are probably getting used to that.
Yeah, well, I haven't experienced that when I was in Beijing this year, but I had to use some like self-service machine for like scanning my fingerprints and this kind of stuff, which was not that creepy too. I remember the first time I went to United States, I was a bit creeped out with all the fingerprints, and now I would give it to anyone who would ask on the street probably. So yeah, I think it's really shifting, and as you've said, like there was no backlash there, and people say like they've got all this data anyway right now, so why bother with that? And I think this is going to happen in the end with every line you draw, right? With Facebook a few years ago, people were crazy about, or some people I knew at least were crazy about like the privacy settings and all this kind of stuff. But in the end, who is using that? Like me personally, I've never been there. I just think there is this section there, but I've never even checked it. And I think people are slowly getting used to it, that whatever you put online, it's just in public domain. It's you know, it's available to anyone. So I think that we're going to get used to this very fast, as we did all this other stuff that's been going on. And it's like 10 years ago, we would never even consider this being a new standard. And now I don't really bother if anyone would take a picture of me. Or I was at gym a few days ago, and I was
I skipped a couple of days, weeks, maybe even months. I stopped counting.
Yeah, when I got there, there was still the same receptionist as when I used to go there like a year ago. So I was a bit ashamed, but I think she didn't remember me anyway. So, well, yeah, and there was like this locker room, right? And they changed like the normal locks that you use for some like bit more modern version of it, that you like put your code there and it opens, and then you lock it with the code again. And there were cameras, of course, in the in the locker room. So I was really thinking that you can just, like in the future, right? You can just put your stuff there, and if the camera is keeping an eye on it, you don't really need to lock anything. And
that is true.
It's gonna be like that with like our behavior, because I can't really imagine how is it going to be possible for someone to conduct some kind of crime like this, like very simple like theft or something like that in 10 years, where a camera is going to be everywhere, and every step you make is just going to be recorded and traceable.
This is really like good point, and I guess this is kind of the reason why I don't care about having my data shared or available publicly or something. Like, I mean, my certain behavior or things like my face and so on, because as you know, I've been robbed a couple of weeks ago, and the interesting thing is that the robbery was like nearly perfect. Like I couldn't recognize any of the suspects, and it was because there was like too many of them, dark place and everything. But they were all caught because of technology. Because basically they stole my phone and stuff. I was able to track them down. They used my payment card, and because of companies like Revolut and Monzo that gives you your payment data available like in real time, I was able to track down where they went, how much they spent, and everything. So there is that like convenience of this. And again, if I look back, like even 50 years ago pre-internet, like data about my behavior as a consumer, like many companies had this because we were using checks and everything, and banks always had huge chunks of data about us. So now I think it's just more we can see the data more. We are more aware that it's all around us, and we have more data available of our friends and everything. But at the same time, it's really not that there is more of it. It's just more available for everyone to use and make a benefit of it. Which obviously it can be a good thing and a bad thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to be, or not trying. I'm feeling positive about those things, and I generally think it's a good thing. Like when you said the fingerprints, for example, when I went to police and I had to give them my fingerprint so they can exclude it from the analysis that they were doing, I was like, I wasn't even thinking about it. It was like for a good thing, right? But the police had to like give me this all like big brief about how they will use the fingerprints only for this, and they won't store them for longer than 2 months, and blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't even care because you're helping me in like crisis situations. So I'm happy to share my data. But I guess yeah, that's just because the data never were like used against me. So
So is there any kind of data for you that you still think is personal, or that's too personal for you to share with like anyone?
Yeah, I have to say like one thing is my home. I don't have my home address like available anywhere. Not all my friends know where I live. I don't share photos of my home on social media. So I think that's like one thing. Like home for me is the sacred place where that's where everything stops. And I don't own any Alexa device or anything like that in my home. My webcam is always covered when I'm home, which I uncover it every time I go out. Like I don't care if I'm recorded in a cafe or in work or something, but just home, I kind of that's where that barrier is for me. But in terms of like data, I don't know, not really. Like again, as I'm conscious about the data and what's shared, I know that like for example, companies, how their profits and everything is already publicly available, at least in Europe. So yeah, so there is not like much that I would like to hide or wish I could hide.
So why is home so like different to you than when you're in a public space? Because anyway, anything you do at home is still going to be traceable, and probably your data is still going to be like local where you live because of where you spend most of the time.
Yeah, true.
And so on. So
definitely, it's. I don't know. I think the main concern is just like security in this case. So you're probably right. Like I don't care if
Google
companies knows that where I live or something like that. If they match me, like let's say Google knows my location and knows it's a home, so they match me with like a services around me or something like that. Or if I'm looking for new rental places, they know I've lived there, so I know the area. And I think for that I wouldn't mind sharing the location, but just for burglars and that kind of stuff, basically.
Yeah. So you believe. Basically, you believe Google more than some of your friends.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say that, but who knows? It's just my feeling. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't share my address neither. I don't even have my name on the downstairs. What is it
doorbell?
called?
Yeah, or post boxes or something.
Yeah, I don't even have a post box there.
Yeah.
But it's not because I would be paranoid that someone would. I don't think anyone has any reason to track me down and find out where I live. I believe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I feel the same. I just don't see why anyone should know where I.
It's that feeling of safety
Yeah.
that I think we all need sometimes, and like I don't need that when I'm outside, right? I'm okay on my own and everything, but I want to be able to just lie down and forget about the world and stress and everything. And to do that, I need to have at least that little bit of sense of privacy. And,
So how would you feel? How would you feel in this kind of city or this kind of establishment?
Yeah.
Because everybody would know where you live.
that's the thing that I'm like still torn apart of. Like, as you said, I probably would like get used to that, but for me right now, it's like it's hard to imagine. It's one of the things I like about living in big city like London, is that there is that bit of privacy that you get here. But again, it may be just an illusion, because still, as I said, CCTVs are everywhere and everything is recorded outside. And
I think the fact that everybody can find all the data about us is just giving me a bit different feeling of privacy, because I feel that there is so much data about everyone that no one really cares what I do in the end. So I feel there is so much data on me that it's not relevant anymore.
yeah.
So you said that there was like no backlash against this kind of stuff when you talk about the airport, and there is a bit of backlash, right? In at least in the European Union, with like data protection and privacy. Do you think there is a possibility that this is going to be different in Europe than in the rest of the world? Because what I'm thinking is, if Europe goes this way, then it might end up being less competitive than the rest of the world.
Gosh, that's a good question. I've never thought about this, so I don't really know. But yeah, it's true. I have to say, like GDPR, right? Is I know it's a big unique thing. Like I really don't even realize it because I live in Europe, I do business in Europe and everything. So I just had to submit myself to those regulations and listen to them. But I know that, like, for example, Americans have been reacting to GDPR differently. Some of them do welcome it, some of them don't. And I've seen a couple of news sites that, for example, prohibited me from reading their content because they want to collect data and they don't offer the option to provide, to like read the content without giving consent to data. And because they don't cater for the strict GDPR rules, they don't want to store that data in a way that is compliant with GDPR. There is like a big screen saying, "Oh no, you can't read this article," which I found really annoying. And at the same, and yeah, but I have to say I'm like a big supporter of GDPR, which is probably contradicts with everything that I've been just talking about, with not being too sensitive about data and everything. But I guess the reason I'm not too sensitive about it is that I still have some kind of trust that my data is not misused all the time. I know it is being misused probably at this very moment, but I believe the fair uses of my data are still in majority. And I think to have legislations around that really helps. So yeah, if Europe will be like the last hub of data privacy, it might set us back. I don't know. We have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. When I was thinking about the privacy and the home and all this stuff, and I won't be bothered with Google and other people maybe knowing where I live or whatever I do. But what I would be scared of is that it's not just only about like gathering data about you, but shaping your behavior and your opinions and this kind of stuff. And if I would find myself in an environment that would be like completely regulated, and it's not just about like the stuff that I see in my phone and some videos and this kind of advertisement, which I think at this moment is absolutely like shaping how we see the world around us. So I would be really worried to live in an environment that could just basically change my views also in the physical way.
Yeah. True. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the discussion we had last time about like shaping opinions and using data and everything to present one certain point of view on like a news and everything, and this kind of relates to it. Yeah, I have to say, like, probably when we talk now about like our feelings towards data, I'm really like speaking only for myself. I don't have a clear view on how it should be for like the whole society and for other people, because I have to say, like, with myself, I don't mind sharing data because I'm constantly trying to be in control of what I'm sharing. So I don't mind because I usually know when it's happening. Like, to give an example, like I'm using DuckDuckGo, the like private search engine, right? That doesn't take into account your behavior or anything. It always gives you like sort of unbiased results. Same with my phone. I know exactly what like location services I have on and off and when, and I'm really like cautious about that stuff. So when we talk about this, it's probably good to like to talk about 2 point of views, which is our personal. Which again, for me, I don't mind sharing data because I know usually when it's being shared and what. But at the same time, we should approach it differently to protect the majority of people that are probably not tech savvy as we are, that don't work in this industry, and might not be so aware about what are they sharing, why, what's going to happen with that data. Which obviously I don't know as well what's happening really with that data, but at least I know it's going out there.
Well, if you would live in a city like this, then there is not going to be like any kind of control that you would be in, because every move, whatever you do on the street, at home, everything would be recorded. So you have absolutely no control what they know about you. And
I think the biggest problem from my point of view here, because again, I live in London, which has this in most central parts. But the biggest difference here is that the data would be collected by a private company, and private company that is the best in like mining data and using it and analyzing it and everything. Of course, I realize that in London there are many private entities gathering and analyzing data for government, but it's still maybe false, but like feeling of that it's somehow more regulated. I'm a bit worried about in this case that this is like a first step towards going from public cities run by voted government towards more like private cities owned by corporations and individuals, groups of people, whatever, which might
that's one of the that's one of the things I really didn't like about the article I've read about this, is that they said that the Google, or the company who's developing the project, they said that they want to create a community of like creative people. So it felt like it's going to be a bit exclusive, and that the population is going to be somehow pre-selected.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's even more creepy, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like this is the like tech elitism that I really don't like that much. And I would like to, I don't like to see that, because I believe in like really open communities and when like urban development happens more organically. So yeah, true. That's probably the thing that is kind of fishy about it. Yeah.
So just to wrap it up, would you move there?
Maybe for a while.
Yeah, me too.
It's like interesting. Like as I said in the beginning, I'm always pro this like change, and I like the experiments that are happening in this space, either by Google or anyone else. So yeah, I would love to try it out, and I would be the first one to do this. Like I always joke with my girlfriend. I tell her that when they're going to make like a really good leg enhancements that are going to make us run faster and be stronger and everything, I'm going to be the first one who's going to cut his legs off to try it out. So this might be the case, but
okay, let's see in a few years.
But at the same time, I would want it to be like a conscious choice that can be reverted, basically. If I know this is not possible, but if there was like a scenario that this would be like rolled out all across the country or something like that, and then people suddenly live in this world, I would say like no, like let's experiment with this, but yeah, let's figure out how to do it in a way that's doesn't. It's like a tricky balance. At the one hand, let's do it in a way that doesn't create this like elitist society that you were like talking about, but at the same time, let's still make it a choice, and let's include people that can sort of bring like a good feedback and good value in this from the experiment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hope so.
Cool.
So let's see in a few years.
Exactly.
And we've got some other news there as
Yeah.
well.
Do you want to do some
Some
other,
small-
or do you want to wrap it up for today? Because we've been talking for quite a long time about this.
Yeah, that's right. So let's keep the other issues for the next.
Yeah. We should do this
episodes.
more regular. We can do a next one in a couple of days, and maybe we can like switch the format. We can have like long discussions like this, and then we can do another one where we do like a flash news or something from the industry, or might be interesting.
Okay, let's try that, and then let's not keep our listeners waiting
Okay.
for too long.
Cool. Thank you very much for listening.
So, thank you guys for listening to us today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't subscribed it, please do. Also, you can find all the content we talked about on our website, on our blog. So, thank you for listening again, and see you next time.